Good evening and welcome to a meeting of the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee. I am Council Member at Large Maria Cabrera, Chair of the committee. At this time, I would like the council members that are in the committee to please introduce themselves. Start with my left.
James Spittle at large.
Vincent White, First District.
Shanae Darby, Second District.
Trippy Congo, City President.
Any council members that are virtual that can introduce themselves?
Nathan Field.
Do we have any other council members? Okay, not hearing any. We're going to proceed with the first agenda item, which is a presentation on the rent reporting pilot program by the Delaware State Housing Authority. And with us today, we have Caitlin Del Calo and Lori Jacobs, and Caitlin is going to do the presentation. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Cabrera, for the invitation. My name is Caitlin Del Calo, and I am Chief Strategy Advisor for Delaware State Housing Authority. I'm joined by our awesome Director of Public Relations, Lori Jacobs, and we are very excited to share about the rent reporting pilot program. This pilot is a partnership between DSHA, Self Financial Inc., which is a fintech or financial tech company, and Neighborhood Partners, formerly known as NCall, which you probably know is a Delaware-based nonprofit. And the program is designed to help low-income tenants increase their credit by reporting on-time rent payments to the major credit bureaus, so TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and on-time utility payments to TransUnion. And you may be thinking, why rent reporting? Why does this matter? Well, if you are a homeowner, every time you make a mortgage payment, your lender reports that payment to the credit bureaus. And that establishes payment history and allows a person to build credit, which helps them qualify for home ownership and also just get better interest rates on different loan products. However, if you're a tenant, every time you pay rent to your landlord, they are not traditional lenders. They do not typically furnish data to the credit bureaus. So renters are not able to get credit, for lack of a better word, for making those payments. So this program sort of fills that gap by allowing renters to take advantage of their rent payments and help them build credit. The funding for this program is available through the American Rescue Plan Act. It is one-time funding. And as such, our pilot can serve up to 400 low-income tenants statewide who meet certain eligibility criteria. Next slide, please. So participants of this program will receive a number of benefits. The first major benefit is they will get 12 months of free access to Level Credit, which is a service that links to a person's bank account and automatically detects rent and utility payments that are drawn from that account. Once Level Credit detects a payment, they will report those payments to the credit bureaus, and again, that helps establish payment history and build that person's credit. Importantly, the Level Credit service does not report missed payments to the bureau. So tenants are only getting sort of positive rent reporting for the payments that they are able to make. Additionally, participants will have the option to report up to 24 months of past rent payments to their current landlord and up to 24 months of past utility payments to their current utility provider. And those utilities could be electric, gas, water, or your landline or cell phone bill. So potentially a program participant could report up to, I think, 5 or 6 different trade lines, rent and those utilities that I listed. Additionally, participants will have access to their credit score and credit insights, which get updated monthly. They'll also receive credit alerts, so anytime there's activity on their account, like a loan being opened up in their name, they'll get an alert about it. And they'll also have ID theft insurance for the duration of the 12 months that they're signed up with Level Credit. Additionally, participants also have the option to be referred to financial counseling or coaching, and that is provided through Neighborhood Partners, which is the entity that is doing all the intake for this program. Next slide, please. So there are two main categories of eligibility for this program. The first is tenants who have a housing voucher or live in a public housing unit that is operated by any one of the state's 5 public housing authorities. So that includes DSHA, where we work, but also Dover Housing Authority, Newark, Newcastle County, and Wilmington Housing Authority. If a person isn't a client of a public housing authority, but their household income is at or below 250% of the federal poverty level, they would also qualify. And that slide shows the income limits based on household size. So for example, for a family of 4, that household could make up to $69,375 per year and still qualify for this program. Next slide, please. The documentation that is needed to establish eligibility is listed on this slide. So for clients who are not associated with a public housing authority, we will need to see income documentation, including pay stubs, any government benefit award letters, if applicable. So if a person receives Social Security income or food stamps, they would need to provide proof of that, and child support statements, again, as applicable. And then, of course, they would also need to provide identification, so a driver license or a state ID or a driver privilege card. Public housing authority clients, some of them may have already received a letter of eligibility from their public housing authority notifying them of this program and their eligibility. So they can take that letter and use that as their proof when they apply. If they haven't already gotten that letter, they can still contact Neighborhood Partners, and staff will just confirm with the public housing authority that they are in fact a client and eligible. And again, a driver license, state ID, or driver privilege card. I do want to highlight that there is no requirement to demonstrate citizenship or lawful presence for this program. So, all we really are looking for with the identification is that somebody is a Delaware resident and that they are who they say they are. Next slide, please. And then I can't underscore this point enough. This program only works if tenants have a bank account with which they can pay their rent and utilities. So the Level Credit service can detect any type of payment that is originally drawn from a bank account. So that could be a check, a debit card, a direct deposit, payments made through Zelle, Venmo, or PayPal that are linked to your bank account, or a property manager or utility provider's online payment portal. Next slide, please. Because this is a pilot program, we want to basically track the outcomes and come up with a final report, and that will show the change in average change in credit score for the participants. So we'll be able to see what the average credit score was before rent reporting and then what it is after rent reporting. Neighborhood Partners is also going to be able to assess whether people are ready to pursue homeownership or to move off of subsidized housing and into the private rental market. And then that final report is also going to contain recommendations for future policies to promote rent reporting as a way to help people build credit, pursue homeownership, and just generally have financial empowerment. Next slide, please. So most importantly, if folks are interested and want to apply, they should contact Neighborhood Partners directly. They can call Nancy Aragon. She is bilingual, so she can assist callers in both English and Spanish. Her phone number and email address are listed on the slide, and there's also a web page on Neighborhood Partners website where folks can start the intake process.
Thank you so much, Ms. Caitlin. This is really amazing. This is a great program, and I have a couple questions, and my
Sure.
council members here can also ask questions, and then we will take questions from anyone in the audience, anyone on Zoom. So first, it's a statewide program, correct?
Yes.
Statewide, okay, all 3 counties. And then the pilot, what is the criteria to continue to do this? And if the pilot is successful, is this going to be established then as a permanent program? And will there be ongoing cost?
So the final report will hopefully establish a path forward to expanding this type of service. I don't know for sure if it's something that will continue to live between DSHA and Neighborhood Partners. There are a number of different ways to do rent reporting. So we're using level credit, but there are other models that directly get information from property managers and landlords. So my hope is that at the end of the pilot, Neighborhood Partners will be able to provide some guidance as to what would make the most sense for Delaware going forward. There would be funding needs in the future for this.
Can we have an idea of how much it costs? Because right now you have enough funding for 400 low-income tenants to participate in the pilot. And let's say, it sounds really good. I can imagine that this is going to be very successful, especially one of my questions you answered during the presentation. They're not going to report if you are a little bit late with your rent. But what would you say is the cost per household to participate? And what is the cost? Is it the next level credit reporting?
Level credit, they charge, I can't remember off the top of my head if they have an enrollment fee, because of course we're providing this service to our participants for free. But they generally charge a monthly fee. I believe it's under $10 for paying customers. The amount of funding that we received from ARPA was $200,000, and a lot of that is paying for administration, paying for the marketing, paying for the time spent going through all the applications, determining eligibility, et cetera. So again, depending on the recommendations that come out of the final report, you know, it may make more sense to, you know, directly subsidize service to level credit without, you know, putting a certain entity in charge of it.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to allow for my other council members to ask questions, and I have one more, but I'll wait because they might ask it. Member Darby?
Yes, I had a few questions. So I know, and I heard of when you have a housing voucher on Section 8 or whatnot, there is a homeowner already, like, way for you to become a homeowner. Is that true? Where you can use your voucher to buy a home or something like that?
Okay, I'm actually going to call on my colleague Lori Jacobs.
Yes, so we can only speak from the perspective of Delaware State Housing Authority. So for our vouchers, no, there is not a way to use the voucher to become a homeowner. One of our programs does encourage homeownership counseling, in which all of our voucher holders are required to go through. Now, Wilmington Housing Authority, Newark Housing Authority might have different programs. So it's not possible at the State Housing Authority, but it might be possible at the other four.
Okay. May I follow up?
Yes.
So my other question, I know this is a pilot program, but I know in regards to like establishing, like I thought, like when I bought my home, they looked at all my credit reports. So if they're just reporting the TransUnion, how does it like communicate with the other credit?
Sure. So it's just the utility payments that only go to TransUnion.
Oh, okay.
The rent payments would go to all three of the major bureaus, so Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And my understanding is that TransUnion currently is the only one of the three that accepts utility payment data,
Oh, okay.
which is why we're only sending them to TransUnion.
No, that makes sense. No, I think this is a great program, especially for like stable renters, like who are able to make their payments on time. Like that group who's like kind of stuck. Like I make okay money. I really, you know, I need some resources. I need some help to be able to become a homeowner. So I think this is great. And then you don't have to notify your landlord, right? That you're a part of this. Like,
No,
at all. Okay,
no. I
good.
mean, you
Yeah,
would
good.
you would need to provide your landlord's name when you're signing up for level credit, because that's how they verify that you're in fact a renter and not the owner of the property. But there's no actual like communication or notification happening between the landlord and the level credit program.
Yeah, because that's good. I know there's some other times people were complaining that they were trying to apply to like a program and their landlord was like, no, I'm not going to allow or accept money from that program. So that's good. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other council members that are present here that may have questions?
Madam Chair, may I speak to
Yes, Councilmember White?
Councilwoman Darby's question in a brief form? The program that you mentioned, Section 8, homeownership, so you can use your voucher for homeownership. Wilmington Housing Authority allows it. It's a voucher program that's been going on for now 15 years. And not only can you use your Section 8 voucher to cover purchase, but if you ever decide to move, it is a portable voucher. Right now, Wilmington Housing Authority has had 89 former tenants become homeowners through the Section 8 to homeownership voucher, and we can talk about it offline and give you some more information.
Thank you. At this time, are there any questions from council members that are on virtually? No hands raised?
No, but I would like to be acknowledged.
Oh,
This is
yes.
Councilwoman McCoy.
Councilmember McCoy has joined us. We'll mark you present.
Good evening.
At this time, are there any members of the public that might be on virtually that would have questions? Well, we're not hearing any. I guess we're done with this presentation, but I have one more question.
Absolutely.
Marketing and outreach. What type of marketing and outreach are you doing? Because I know you want people to know about this amazing program.
Sure. So I've been doing presentations just like this to a number of community groups. Those include the community calls that Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall-Long hosts. So I have presented on her Black community leaders call, her faith leaders call, her Latino community leaders call. We've also connected with Stand By Me, and Neighbor Good Partners is also doing some marketing from their side of things. We have done a huge social media push. We've shared social media graphics with the Office of the Governor, with all 62 state legislators here in Delaware, and we continue to spread the word as we launch. We just launched about a month ago, so we are still enrolling and still sort of like ramping up.
Great. One of the suggestions I might make, when I was first hired as a navigator, when the Affordable Care was put into place, I had to do outreach up and down the state. And the churches were very effective. Going into the churches, the pastors usually will allow you to say a few words, and then sometimes they have fellowship on certain Sundays of the month where you're able to make presentations and table. The other thing I would suggest is we do have Hispanic radio station, 104.1 FM, and I'm sure that Kevin and the gang would love to have you come on and do a presentation and reach the Hispanic community. Council President, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. You mentioned there are going to be 400 participants.
Yes,
That's statewide.
statewide, yes.
Are there certain, like, allotted numbers for each county, or just come, like, first come,
No,
first served?
and I would like to also add on to the list of marketing. I mentioned before in the presentation that each public housing authority is proactively notifying their clients about eligibility. So for our part, Delaware State Housing Authority, we sent out mailers to all of our moving to work clients, which make up the majority of our voucher and public housing clients. And that notification let them know that the program is available and that they are eligible to apply. And the other 4 public housing authorities have been working with us to get the word out to their own folks.
Okay.
And of course, Delaware State Housing Authority, we primarily serve voucher holders and public housing clients in Kent and Sussex counties. So we are covering the entire state.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes. And thank you for the suggestion about the churches, Councilmember Cabrera.
Yeah, we were very successful in getting people enrolled, and first we had to educate them, and then we had to enroll them. I would like to acknowledge that Councilmember Brigida Fields is here, and we are discussing the rent reporting pilot program. You think you might have any questions of the ladies before we have them move on? This is going to be great, and we will assist you any way that we can as we're out in our community meetings and getting the word out, and you're certainly more than welcome to come back to this committee and give us an update on the participation. And if you find that you're not getting as much participation, and we need to do a push, even here in the city of Wilmington, to get more people enrolled, we really want to get our residents that are renters to transition into home buying. We know that we could have a more vibrant city if we have homeowners, and we certainly have housing stock that we're fixing up through the land bank and other programs that would be affordable through the HUD requirements, and this would be a natural way for them to get into this process of buying a home and, getting those neighborhoods to come back to life here in Wilmington. So we thank you. Any questions that you might have of us? Oh, and Councilmember Brigida is going to ask a question.
First of all, I'm just reading over this really quickly. I am a scanner.
That's okay.
But this really sounds good. And I do like the fact that you said you're going to serve over 400 low-income tenants who meet the criteria. My thing is, there is a home buyers workshop called Pursuit to Own. So I'm working with a lot of people that are interested in being first-time home buyers. So I really think that this would be a good place for you to come in and just talk about your pilot program. That way, those individuals that are in the process of purchasing homes or in this program, they'll be able to maybe participate in this. So I will be in touch.
Wonderul. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll leave my
and I will
card.
invite you to the next workshop we have. And it's all on Zoom, so you don't have to show up in face. You just have to be able to do a presentation for us. But I think it would be very beneficial for your numbers as well as the program too.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
See, Caitlin and Lori, you came to the right place at the right time.
Yes.
Well, we thank you again for coming. And Lori, I just wanted to say, that there was a Dr. Lori Jacobs, a dentist?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I worked
do.
with her. That was one of my first jobs here in Delaware.
Yes.
Okay, ladies, well, thank you so much, and you're welcome to come back any other time. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you can leave if you'd like. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to proceed to the next agenda item, which is a resolution in support of HB number 37, an act to amend Title 25 of the Delaware Code related to landlord obligations and tenant remedies. The sponsor is Councilmember Darby. This time, Councilmember Darby, would you like to discuss your resolution?
Yes, thank you. So this resolution is in support of a state legislation that will allow for more protections for tenants and who are experiencing or who are living in dangerous conditions and defects. So this act allows tenants to bring an action of rent and escrow to pay rent into the court because of asserted defects or conditions. So the tenant on a state level will be able to refuse to pay rent and to put it up into an escrow until those repairs are made. So I was in full support of this as the city of Wilmington, we already have an escrow account. It is already a law that we're supposed to do it. It just has not been enforced. So I thought this would be a good time for us to talk about and for us to look at as a city how we are dealing with escrow accounts to provide tenants with an extra layer of protection. Currently in Chapter 34 in our Housing Code, Article 2, in Administration and Enforcement, it talks about rent withholding. And when a landlord fails to make repairs after being notified, of course, of certain housing violations and lease violations, the tenant may place their rent in an escrow account with the city of Wilmington instead of sending the rent to the landlord. The city then can ask the landlord to make the required repairs. This will be a game changer for the state, and then even for the city, because it would be like a way to say we really need to do this. Is on the state books, it's on the city books, and we just haven't done it. And what's really important about what we have on the books now that's not being enforced with our escrow accounts that can benefit our tenants is that the city of Wilmington can actually use, after a certain period, can use that escrow account funds to actually make the repairs through the city, or they can contract it out so that tenants are living in homes that are livable, right? That could be a game changer. That could have prevented Adams Street from happening, where you still have people who are displaced, who are not getting the resources and services that they need. We could have avoided that if we are enforcing the laws that we have, but I'm in full support of the state. When I made this request to have it on the agenda, it was going through its process of being, it was filed. However, it was not released to be voted on the state level. What do they call it down there? Motion to release failed. So that happened after the request. So it's really disheartening to see that on the state level, that our colleagues did not support this and looking at ways that we can best support our tenants. But I'm hoping on the city level that as council people, we can come together to enforce the laws that are already on the books to help our tenants. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to have Councilmember Brigida Fields, who has a question. We'll start with her.
Thank you. Councilwoman Darby, have you spoken to any of the legislators down there in Dover about the amendment? I mean, before we send a resolution, I was just wondering, have you had that conversation with someone down there as of yet?
Yes, I had the conversation. I talk to them frequently.
Okay. And my thing, do you need, like, more support? So since you talked to them, the bill didn't pass, are you asking for us to come, are you asking, have you asked any of your colleagues to either call down there to speak with the other legislators to see if we can lobby for the same thing, for this? Or you just want to just send a resolution down to see if they answer it? You know, do you get what I'm saying? Like, instead of us just sending a resolution, have you said, okay, hey guys, can we get together and just call, or this is what I'm trying to do, this is how it's going to affect the city, this is how it's going to affect the renters, and you know, and you already know I'm all about home ownership and getting rental properties out or making sure that they're taken care of, but giving us some information on who we need to contact down there in the state to say we need to make a phone call and say, hey, did you look at that? That's my only thing. I mean, not that I say I support it, but I'm just saying though, like, maybe we can make a couple of us can make a phone call and ask them to really look into it.
Yeah, so there are different groups and organizations working on that right now, housing advocates, on making sure that that whole part on like advocacy and making sure what can we do to move forward to make sure that if this is filed again, how can we make sure that it gets passed?
Yeah, I'm not talking about groups. I'm talking about I'm talking about elected officials calling down there to talk to other elected officials about how important this is as far as the city.
Yeah, you could do that if you want. Yes.
Okay, so I guess what I would need from you is who are the individuals that you reached out to so that I can make a phone call. That's all I was asking.
Oh, I can get you the names of the people I reached
Okay,
out to.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that piggybacking on what Councilmember Fields says is that this is something that is important, and if you see that your state legislators are not moving something forward that is important to the city of Wilmington, not only can we as colleagues make that push as elected leaders, but also ask members of the Wilmington community to put that same pressure and to call all of them. So Councilmember Darby, my question is this: right now, is this being held on the state? They're not moving forward with this?
Correct. They call it motion to release fail. So currently, right now, they're just so. Prior to me putting it on the agenda, it wasn't. But now
It just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. So now it's kind of.
Pardon?
Hello.
My hand has been up for some time. I just wanted to be able to give some comment on that.
Okay, did you finish answering?
I guess yeah. I'll stop talking.
Okay, Councilmember McCoy?
All right, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm like, it's hard to try to get anyone's attention on this. The reason why I wanted to basically put my hand up is to state that I have been working on this, but it's only been on a city level. What we've seen to realize is that even though the ordinance is there is not a process really in place. So an affidavit had to actually be put together. We've already had someone investigating the money that is in the escrow account. There's funds there. It looks like it's been only used once or twice. There's funds in there. They are even unable to identify where those funds came from. So there's been, work of, trying to get this process together, but it has not moved. I definitely want to make certain that I bring this information back and that we do have a follow-up, because it's been pretty much a few weeks now since I've met with the treasurer. So the treasurer department is the one who actually handles that account, and then also meeting with the commissioner from LNI, because the affidavit portion is what we need to talk to the like the tenants about. So when it comes to the process for the city, we can definitely work on all of that together. But as for the state, if you need our support to try to move something there, I definitely will try to make phone calls or what have you. But if it's failed just recently, or is this just from the last term, like the last time they were in session?
This last term, like the end of January, like a week ago.
Oh, Joe. Oh, this is just recently.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's recent.
So if it's anything like ours, then we normally can't bring it back up again until, like it takes a while before we can bring something back up.
Correct. So that's why I just said this
I'm
is
not certain. I'm sorry. Continue.
Go ahead. Okay, who's proceeding next? Okay, Councilmember McCoy, are you good? Do you still have additional comments?
Oh, no, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I didn't mean to keep cutting her off. I'm like, she can continue. I was just wondering whether or not this was something that happened the last session or this was recent. She did answer my question.
Yes.
So I am not very well versed on when they can bring things back up, once it's actually, been presented to them. So.
Great, thank you. And we're not ignoring you, Councilmember McCoy. The ladies were answering each other's questions, and we did see that your hand was up, and Jasenia is going to keep an eye on that. So if you have any further questions. At this time, Councilmember White?
Yeah. Yes, Councilmember White, the resolution is well crafted. The nature of the business in Dover is a little bit different than ours. I would agree that we should do outreach and figure out who are the sponsors of the bill and where they come from or what districts they represent. But back to your question, Councilwoman, it's that the matter's been tabled is not a defeat. It's the chair is holding that matter. So it hasn't been defeated. It just doesn't have the required votes to come out of committee. So again, there's a number of strategies. If Councilwoman Darby wants to entertain the council as a whole on what her strategy would be, but at least we get the sponsors of the bill and the sponsors and the members of the Housing Committee for conversations.
Thank you for that follow-up. Any other council members that have any other comments? Councilmember Darby?
Yeah, so with the new news of it being held and not coming out of the committee, I think it is, as a council, we can definitely reach out. I know I've been speaking to staff about, like, how do we build or have more relations on a professional level with our General Assembly, because I know half of them down there too, right? But how do we, as a council, as a group, build that? And I think this is a part of that, having that conversation when we're able to sit down with the Wilmington delegation and sit down with other state representatives and senators who are down there. So I think this is probably one of the things that we can put on the list. So really, it was just, but it was already on the agenda. I wanted to make sure that the conversation still happened. I don't know if sending a resolution and then we then contact the sponsors and the people and figure out who is holding it and why it's being held. We can do that work, but to show that as a council, we're in support of this and we want you guys to do something about this on a state level. I think that is part of the strategy. And then we do the work to try to get it so that it's released. And I know that there are people who are working on getting it released.
Great, thank you.
Follow-up question, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Did I hear
Proceed.
that there was an amendment to this piece of legislation? If so, what's the nature of the amendment? Or did I not hear correct?
No, I never mentioned amendment.
Okay.
It was a motion to hold it.
Thank you.
No, you talking about in the legislation?
Right, in the legislation.
He's not talking about holding the resolution. He was saying, was it amendment for?
No, there's
Has the bill been amended?
The bill has
to
not
amend
been
Title
amended.
25 of the Delaware Code.
But the bill
That's,
hasn't been amended.
no, the bill, no, that's to on how the state does it. The city already has this program. We have not really been using it, and that's one of the things we're going to work collectively to make sure that we in the city, or at least utilizing it, but we're pushing for the state to do it so that it is a statewide program. Are there any other council members present here that have a question or any comments? Is there any of the council members that are joining us virtually that have any questions or comments before I proceed to the public? Not seeing any. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this? Thank you. Come forward and state your name.
Hi, my name is Brandon Fletcher. I live in the 5th District.
Bring your mic up.
Thank you, Committee Chairwoman Cabrera, for today's meeting. And I'm just here today to speak in support of Councilwoman Darby, your resolution, HB 37, to allow tenants, renters to pay rent into a court escrow if a landlord fails to fix defective or dangerous housing conditions. This is an important housing justice and tenants' rights bill that would provide a much-needed option for tenants who are dealing with landlords who fail to fix dangerous conditions. Last May, we saw the Adams Street victims mass eviction from their home due to well-known landlord who refused to make repairs, taking advantage of renters who had no other option of where they could live, and subjugating them to live in dangerous conditions. And I thank the sponsor of HB 37, my representative Sherry Dorsey Walker, which after the Adams Street prompted this legislation, and I think could be a much needed option if the city is not functioning its escrow program. As Councilwoman Darby mentioned, there are existing laws that the city can use to help protect renters' health and safety, and escrow is one of those ways. I also think it kind of goes hand in hand with knowing your rights and responsibilities, and that the state of Delaware has to do a lot better of a job of notifying what tenants' rights and responsibilities are. And I think that's why we also need SB1, rights representation. So I encourage, in addition to asking the council to support this, to also support SB1, tenants' rights representation, so that going into court, tenants know that they have legal options to maintain their housing. And yes, the motion did fail, but it requires 7 votes of the House Housing Committee to vote on and to release it. So I just want to thank Councilwoman Darby again for your steadfast work on this, and encourage the council to vote in support of this resolution.
Thank you, Brandon. And I just want to add that when someone goes into a tenant-landlord relationship, they are required by law through the state of Delaware to give every tenant the landlord-tenant code. But we know that sometimes these things go unread and it's hard to understand the jargon. So it's best to have some representation and someone to help people out in these situations. Are there any other questions or comments on this resolution? Since it is a resolution, it does not need to be voted out of committee. I would like to ask to be a co-sponsor, Councilmember Darby, if I could be added to that, and anyone else that would like to be a co-sponsor, please let the sponsor know. And this will be before City Council. Not sure if it'll be the next meeting or the following. So so it'll be February 23rd. We will be voting on the resolution. So anyone out there that would like to support it and would like to come speak during public comment, we welcome you to come to the next City Council meeting on February 23rd. Okay, Councilmember Darby has a
One
closing
last thing.
comment.
So what I can do for council is I'll send everyone on the housing committee all their information.
Please.
And then hopefully we can all contact them in the meantime between now and the 23rd and see if we can get it out.
Now, let's get all 13 of us on board, not just the
can we-
Housing Committee.
Madam Chair, just as the work that needs to be done, can we just follow up and obviously Councilwoman Darby taking the lead on this, but back to what Councilwoman Fields says. Make certain we ask the sponsor exactly what they would like us to do, so it's more surgical in our approach. So just a follow-up.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. At this point, we do not have any other agenda items, and we want to thank everyone who joined us today, the member of the public who join us virtually. We welcome you to start coming in person if you would like, comment at these committees. The next meeting will be held on the second Thursday of the month. And at this point, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second on the motion.
It has been properly been first and second on the question. All in favor, reply with yay. Any
Yeah,
opposed?
aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I didn't think so. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and we hope to see you February 23rd.